The alarm had been ringing for 3 hours now, and Director Thelvan wanted to throw his communication device across the room. Another handler had just refused the contract. That made 7 species, 12 individual experts, and 0 solutions to his problem. He stood in front of the observation window, staring down at the containment area below. 3 small shapes moved in the shadows of the artificial den. They looked almost cute from this distance, like oversized puppies playing together. But Thelvan knew better. Those were Raxion cubs. And even at 3 months old, they were already the most dangerous creatures on this station. The research vessel crash had been a tragedy. The adult Raxions died on impact, leaving their cubs orphaned on this forest moon. Under normal circumstances, the Galactic Conservation Authority would simply contact the Raxian sovereignty and arrange a pickup. But these circumstances were anything but normal. The cubs were starving. They refused to eat the food the station provided. They attacked the delivery drones, smashed the feeding systems, and filled the air with a sound that made every living thing on the station want to run away screaming. That sound was their distress call, a frequency that triggered pure terror in almost every known species. Thelvan had tried everything. He brought in Vorton Beastmasters, legendary across the galaxy for their ability to tame any creature. They lasted 10 minutes near the cubs before their nerve broke. He hired Keltharian handlers who could communicate telepathically with animals. They reported feeling overwhelming aggression and fear from the cubs. So intense, it gave them splitting headaches. Even the automated systems were failing. The cubs had figured out how to break every mechanical feeder, rip apart every drone, and disable every camera that got too close. They were smart, coordinated, and absolutely terrified. Terrified cubs of an apex predator species were apparently more dangerous than anyone had imagined. His assistant, a young Karathi named Velsha, entered the observation room with another datapad. She looked exhausted. They all were. "Sir, we have a response from the Raxion sovereignty," she said quietly. "They say they cannot send anyone for another 4 weeks. Their nearest ship is too far away. 4 weeks. The cubs would be dead in 1 week, maybe less." Thelvan felt his career crumbling around him. The Raxian species was already endangered, down to fewer than 10,000 individuals across the entire galaxy. Losing 3 cubs meant losing potential breeding pairs, genetic diversity, hope for the species' survival. "What about the human solution?" Velsha asked carefully. Thelvan turned to look at her. "You cannot be serious. Sir, we have no other options. Humans have a reputation for handling difficult animals. On their home world, they have something called zoos and sanctuaries where they care for dangerous predators. I found several specialists who might—" "Humans are barely space-capable," Thelvan interrupted. "They have been in the galactic community for only 40 years. They are small, weak, and ridiculously emotional about animals. Do you know what their reputation is? They try to pet everything. They adopt predators as companions. They form attachments to creatures that could kill them without effort." "Yes, sir," Velsha said patiently. "That is exactly why they might succeed where others have failed." Thelvan wanted to argue, but he had nothing left. He looked down at the cubs again. One of them, the smallest, was lying very still, not sleeping, listless, giving up. In another day, maybe 2, that cub would be too weak to recover even if they somehow got it to eat. "Fine," he said. "Find me a human. But find one who actually knows what they are doing. Not some enthusiast who thinks wild animals are pets." Velsha's fingers flew across her datapad. "I already have a candidate, sir. His name is Tae-Min. He is from Earth's Korean peninsula. His file says he has worked with Siberian tigers, saltwater crocodiles, and Asian elephants. He specializes in rehabilitation of traumatized predators. What are his qualifications?" Velsha scrolled through the file. University degree in wildlife biology. 15 years of field experience. Multiple citations for successful rehabilitation of animals. Other experts declared unmanageable. There are some concerning notes, though. Of course there are. What do they say? Excessive empathy for dangerous fauna. Disregards standard safety protocols when he believes they cause unnecessary stress to animals. Forms emotional attachments to subjects. Refused to euthanize a tiger that had killed 2 people because he believed it was acting in self-defense. Thelvan closed his eyes. This was insane. But insane was all he had left. Does he have any experience with extraterrestrial species? No, sir. Humans have not been authorized to work with protected alien fauna until now. But his supervisor provided a reference. She says, and I quote, "If anyone can handle your impossible situation, Taemin can. He does not give up, he does not panic, and animals trust him, even when they should not. Contact him," Thelvan said. "Offer triple the standard rate. Tell him we need him immediately. And, Velsha? Make sure he understands what he is getting into. I do not want a dead human on my conscience along with everything else." 2 days later, Taemin arrived on Velnar 7 with a single assistant. Thelvan met them at the docking bay, preparing his speech about danger and protocols and liability waivers. But when the human stepped off the transport, Thelvan found himself momentarily speechless. Taemin was not particularly large by human standards, maybe average height and build. He had dark hair, calm eyes, and carried a single bag over his shoulder. He looked around the station with interest but not fear. His assistant, a woman named Hana, was busy scanning everything with various instruments. "Director Thelvan?" Taemin extended his hand in the human greeting gesture. His grip was firm but not aggressive. "Thank you for calling us. I understand you have some cubs that need help. Some cubs that need help?" As if they were lost puppies instead of killing machines. Thelvan led them to the observation room and pulled up the live feed. The cubs were moving now, pacing restlessly. Their distress call filled the audio system. Hana immediately pulled out a frequency analyzer. "Interesting. That is triggering the amygdala response in most species. But human neurology should be less affected. We will feel uncomfortable, but not paralyzed." Taemin was studying the cubs with intense focus. "They are beautiful. Look at that coordination. Even stressed and starving, they move like a unit. How long have they been alone?" Quote, 11 days, Thelvan said. "We have been trying to feed them for 9 days. Nothing works. 11 days, 11 days, 11 days, 11 days, 11 days, 11 days. Have you tried just sitting with them?" The question was so simple, it took Thelvan a moment to process it. Sitting with them? They are apex predators. They are children, Taemin corrected gently. Scared children who watched their parents die. They do not need force or tricks. They need to know they are safe. He turned to Thelvan with a slight smile. "I would like to go in now, please. The sooner we start, the sooner they start healing." Thelvan realized he was dealing with either a genius or a fool. Possibly both. He just hoped he would not be filing a death report by the end of the day. Every member of the station crew was watching the monitors. Some had made bets on how long the human would last. The pessimists gave him 5 minutes. The optimists gave him 10. Taemin entered the containment area, carrying nothing but a small cooler and a blanket. The security team had insisted he wear protective gear, but he refused everything except basic clothing. "Armor will make them think I am a threat," he explained. "I need them to see me as harmless. Harmless." Walking into an enclosure with 3 apex predator cubs, Thelvan watched from the observation deck, his 4 hands gripped tight on the railing. The cubs noticed Taemin immediately. Their heads snapped toward him in perfect synchronization. The distress call cut off, replaced by a low rumbling sound that made the speakers vibrate. That was a warning. "Thanks for watching," and then wide and Y1 formation, a promise of violence if the intruder came closer. Taemin stopped about 30 meters from their den. He did not look at them directly. Instead, he spread out his blanket, sat down, and opened his cooler. He pulled out food that looked like some kind of earth sandwich and began eating slowly. "What is he doing?" Thelvan demanded. Hana, monitoring her instruments from the safety of the observation room, spoke without looking up, establishing non-threatening behavior. Many Earth predators will not attack something that is not acting like prey or competition. He is showing them he has his own food and is not interested in theirs. They do not have any food, Velsha pointed out. They do not know that he knows that, Hana replied. Right now, they are trying to figure out what he is. He is not running, so he is not prey. He is not challenging them, so he is not competition. He is just existing in their space without demanding anything. It confuses their threat assessment. Enter. The cubs watched Taemin for almost 20 minutes. Then the largest one made a mock charge, stopping about 10 meters away. It was testing him, trying to trigger a fear response. Taemin did not even look up. He finished his sandwich, pulled out a data pad, and started reading. His back was to the cubs now. He just turned his back on them, someone whispered in horror, but the cubs did not attack. The large one stopped, confused. In its short life, everything either ran from it or fought back. This small creature did neither. It just sat there, completely unconcerned, reading something on a glowing screen. After a moment, the cub retreated to its siblings. They huddled together, making soft, chirping sounds. They were communicating, trying to figure out this strange situation. Taemin stayed for 6 hours that first day. He ate 2 more meals, always slow and calm. He spoke occasionally, just random observations about the weather or how nice the artificial forest looked. His voice was low and gentle, the same tone someone might use talking to a baby. When he finally left, he placed several portions of specially prepared meat near the edge of the clearing. Not too close to their den, not in a demanding way. Just available, if they wanted it. The station crew watched all night. At around 3 a.m. station time, the smallest cub crept out and sniffed the food. It grabbed one portion and dragged it back to the den. Within an hour, all the food was gone. They ate, Velsha said, relief flooding her voice. They actually ate. Velsha. Thelvan allowed himself the smallest bit of hope. Over the next 3 days, Taemin established a routine. He arrived at the same time every morning. He sat in the same spot. He brought food for himself and left portions for the cubs. He talked to them constantly, even though they could not understand his words. "You are looking stronger today," he would say. "That is good. You need to eat. I know you are scared. I know you miss your family. But you are going to be okay. I promise." Hana explained to the fascinated observers that tone mattered more than words. Human infants respond to the emotional content of speech long before they understand language. Many Earth animals do the same. He is communicating safety, calm, consistency. Those cubs are learning that this human appears every day, brings food, makes soothing sounds, and then leaves without hurting them. On day 4, something remarkable happened. The smallest cub, the one that had been so listless before, came out while Taemin was still there. It did not approach him, but it did not hide either. It sat about 15 meters away and watched him eat his lunch. Taemin acted like this was completely normal. He did not stare at the cub or make sudden movements. He just continued eating and talking. "Hello there," he said softly. "I am glad you came out. You do not have to come close. Just wanted to see what I was doing. Right? That is smart. Always good to know who is in your territory." The cub tilted its head, listening. Its ears, which had been flat against its skull in fear, lifted slightly. By day 5, all 3 cubs were eating regularly. By day 6, they started coming out whenever Taemin arrived. They kept their distance, but they were watching him constantly, learning his patterns, beginning to trust that he was predictable and safe. On day 7, the smallest cub allowed Taemin to sit within 5 meters. It was a massive breakthrough. Hana recorded every second, taking notes about the cub's body language, its breathing, the position of its tail. "Look at that," she said excitedly. "Its pupils are not dilated. Its hackles are not raised. It is not showing any signs of stress. It is curious about him." Taemin celebrated this victory the way someone might celebrate climbing a mountain. Quietly, gratefully, with the patience of someone who knew this was just one step in a long journey. Other station staff started asking questions. How was he doing this? What technique was he using? Was there some kind of pheromone or technology involved? "There is no trick," Hana explained in an impromptu lecture to a crowd of curious aliens. "This is just how humans approach animals. We observe, we adapt, we remain patient. We do not see these cubs as problems to be solved. We see them as individuals who need time and space to heal." A Vorton handler who had fled the cubs on day 1 asked the question everyone was thinking. "But how is he not afraid? That sound they make, it reaches into your brain and makes you want to run. How does he resist it?" Hana smiled. "He feels it. He told me it makes him uncomfortable, like standing too close to an edge. But human fear responses can be consciously overridden. We assess the actual danger versus the perceived danger. Those cubs are dangerous, yes. But Taemin has evaluated their behavior patterns. He knows they attack when startled or threatened, so he makes sure to never startle or threaten them. Simple, simple." The Vortan repeated weakly. "He makes it sound simple." Ramen. By the end of week 2, the transformation was obvious. The cubs were healthier, more active, and significantly less aggressive. They still did not let Taemin touch them, but they followed him with their eyes constantly. When he left the enclosure, they made soft sounds that Raxian experts identified as juvenile attachment calls. The galaxy was starting to notice. News feeds picked up the story of the human handling the impossible cubs. Scientists from a dozen species requested permission to observe. Everyone wanted to understand how Taemin was succeeding where sophisticated technology and trained professionals had failed. Thelvan found himself giving interviews, explaining something he did not fully understand himself. "The human does not try to dominate them," he said. "He does not try to outsmart them or force them. He just shows up every day and treats them with respect. Apparently, that is enough." In the containment area, Taemin sat with his datapad, reading reports on Raxion behavior. The smallest cub, which Hana had nicknamed Day 1 in her notes, was lying about 3 meters away, not sleeping, just resting. Comfortable. "You are doing great," Taemin said quietly. "All 3 of you." The cub's ear flicked toward his voice, listening, beginning to understand that this strange, soft creature meant safety. And that was how humans did the impossible. Not with technology or force, but with patience, observation, and the simple radical act of caring. The breakthrough came during week 2, but not in the way anyone expected. It started with blood. The middle cub, slightly larger than its siblings, had gotten into a fight, probably over food, though the cameras had not caught the incident. Now it had a deep wound on its flank, a gash that went through the natural armor plating and into the muscle beneath. The wound was infected, turning the surrounding tissue an ugly purple color. Thelvan called Taemin to the observation room immediately. "We need to tranquilize it and treat that wound. If the infection spreads, the cub will die in 3 days." Taemin studied the monitors, his expression troubled. "No tranquilizers." "What?" "We cannot use tranquilizers. These cubs are already traumatized. If we force them down, inject them with drugs, perform medical procedures while they are unconscious, we destroy everything we have built. They will never trust any sentient being again. The fear will be permanent." Thelvan felt frustration rising. "So, what do you suggest? We let it die?" No, Taemin said firmly. We teach it to accept help. Hana arrived moments later, understanding immediately what Taemin intended. You are going to demonstrate vulnerability. 1. Including feigned sensesmaning, are aspeen undermaning. Yes. Velsha looked between the humans, confused. I do not understand. Taemin pulled up his sleeve, revealing a long scar on his forearm. He got me pretty good. He lifted his pant leg, showing another scar. Crocodile. That one was my fault. I got careless. How does showing them your scars help? Delvan asked. Because it shows them I have been hurt and healed. It makes me less of an unknown. And more importantly, I can show them what medicine looks like, how it works, that it helps, instead of hurts. What followed was one of the strangest things Thelvan had ever witnessed. Taemin entered the enclosure with a medical kit. The cubs watched him warily, especially the injured one. Pain made it aggressive, defensive. Taemin sat in his usual spot but did something new. He rolled up his sleeve and began applying a healing gel to his old scar. He talked through every step. This is medicine, he said in that same calm voice. It helps injuries heal. See, I put it on my old wound. It feels cool. Kind of nice, actually. It does not hurt. It makes things better. He did this for 20 minutes, treating his old scars while the cubs watched. Then he took out fresh bandages and wrapped his arm, showing them the entire process. He left the medical kit on the ground between himself and the cubs, then backed away to his usual sitting spot. The medicine is there if you want it, he said. No pressure, no force. Just there when you are ready. The injured cub growled, a sound of pain and frustration. It wanted help, but did not know how to ask. Its siblings pressed close, making anxious sounds. Taemin stayed for 6 hours that day. He reapplied medicine to his own scars twice more, always narrating, always calm. When he finally left, the medical kit remained behind. The station crew watched through the night. Nothing happened for hours. Then, around 2 a.m., something incredible occurred. The smallest cub, Day 1, approached the medical kit. It sniffed the supplies carefully, then grabbed the container of healing gel in its mouth. It dragged the container toward its injured sibling. It is helping, Hana whispered, her voice filled with awe. It watched Taemin and understood that the medicine helps injuries. Now it is trying to help its sibling. The injured cub sniffed the gel, licked it cautiously, then began rubbing its wounded flank against the container, trying to get the medicine onto the injury. The application was clumsy and inefficient, but it worked. Some of the gel made it onto the wound. By morning, the wound looked slightly better. Not healed, but not worse. The infection had stopped spreading. Taemin arrived for his morning routine and saw the scattered medical supplies. His face broke into a huge smile. Good job, he said to the cubs. You figured it out. I am so proud of you. He sat down and began preparing fresh bandages and gel. This time, he moved closer to the injured cub, maybe 2 meters away. Still not touching, but closer than ever before. He placed the supplies within easy reach and backed away. The injured cub watched him for a long moment. Then, slowly, it approached the supplies. It let Taemin see it, apply more gel to its wound. It was not exactly asking for help, but it was accepting the human's presence during a vulnerable moment. That was trust. Over the next 3 days, Taemin gradually moved closer during medicine time. The injured cub allowed it because the medicine made the pain less. The wound started healing properly, the ugly purple fading to healthy pink. On day 5 of treatment, Taemin reached out very slowly and touched the cub's shoulder. Not the wound, just a gentle touch on uninjured armor plating. The cub tensed but did not attack. It looked at Taemin with large eyes that were beginning to show something other than fear. Curiosity. Maybe. The beginning of attachment. Good, Taemin whispered. You are so brave. This must be scary, but you are letting me help. Thank you for trusting me. By week 3, all 3 cubs allowed Taemin within touching distance. He could check the healing wound properly now, applying bandages with practiced efficiency. The injured cub actually leaned into his touch, seeking comfort. Other humans arrived to study the process. Among them was Yuna, an ethologist who had worked with Hana on Earth. She brought data files full of information about human-animal bonding. She gave a presentation to the station crew that changed how many species viewed humanity. For thousands of years, humans have been forming bonds with apex predators, she explained. We took wolves, creatures that could easily kill us, and turned them into dogs through patience and mutual benefit. We befriended horses, elephants, even orcas. We do not do this through domination or superior technology. We do it through consistent, reliable behavior and emotional connection. A Keltharian scientist asked, "But why? Why would your species risk forming attachments to dangerous creatures?" Yuna smiled. Because we have big brains and pattern recognition skills that let us understand animal behavior. Because we are social creatures who naturally form packs and groups, so extending that instinct to other species feels normal to us. And because we have discovered that partnership with animals makes us more successful than trying to control them. She showed videos of Earth animals, of guide dogs helping blind humans, of horses carrying people across great distances, of cats protecting homes from pests. We gain survival advantages from these bonds. But more than that, we gain companionship. Humans do not like being alone. We will pack bond with almost anything, including creatures that could kill us, because emotional connection is that important to us. The cubs thrived under this approach. Taemin and Hana created feeding protocols that mimicked natural Raxion pack behavior. They studied how adult Raxions distributed food, how they established social hierarchies, how they taught cubs to hunt. Taemin brought in training dummies, teaching the cubs to practice hunting behaviors on safe targets. He rewarded cooperation between the cubs, encouraging them to work as a team. When conflicts arose, he did not punish aggression but redirected it into play or practice. Aggression is not bad, he explained to Thelvan. It is a survival trait. They need it to be healthy Raxians. But they also need to learn control, when to use it, and when to hold back. That is what pack structures teach. By the end of week 3, the cubs followed Taemin everywhere within the enclosure. They checked his location constantly, the same way young wolves monitor their pack leaders. When he sat down, they settled nearby. When he stood, they stood. When he left, they showed obvious distress, making sounds that broke the hearts of everyone listening. They have imprinted on him, Hana said, recording another session of data. In their minds, he is pack, not prey, not threat, not even really alien. He is family. Thelvan watched the monitors, seeing the smallest cub, Day 1, resting its head on Taemin's leg while the human checked its teeth for health problems. The cub was completely relaxed, trusting absolutely. I did not think this was possible, Thelvan admitted quietly. They are apex predators. He is prey-sized by their standards. Everything about this should not work. But it does work, Velsha said, because he never treated them like monsters. He saw scared children and responded with patience. Humans are strange. Humans are effective, Thelvan corrected. He was already writing his report to the Galactic Conservation Authority. This was not just about 3 cubs anymore. This was about changing how the galaxy understood animal behavior, rehabilitation, and the power of emotional bonds across species barriers. In the enclosure, Taemin laughed as the largest cub playfully knocked him over. It was gentle, controlled, the way cubs play with pack members they care about. He scratched behind its ear, finding the spot that made its back leg kick. You are going to be okay, he told them. All 3 of you. You are going to grow up strong and healthy. And you are going to remember that not all strange things are threats. Some of us just want to help. The cubs understood the tone, if not the words, and they settled around him, their human pack member, feeling safe for the first time since their world ended. The message arrived during week 4, and it changed everything. The Raxian sovereignty was sending a representative to evaluate the cubs and determine their fitness for return to Raxian society. His name was Krek Thor, and his reputation preceded him. Thelvan showed Taemin the file with a worried expression. He is a military commander, very traditional. He believes weakness is death and that cubs who cannot survive without help should not survive at all. Taemin looked at the image of Krek Thor, a massive Raxion standing 12 feet tall with battle scars covering his armor plating. So he is not going to be impressed that I have been hand-raising his species' cubs. He is going to view it as contamination, Thelvan said bluntly. Raxians value strength and independence above all else. Cubs that needed emotional support from an alien will be seen as defective in his eyes. What does that mean for them? Thelvan hesitated. There will be a trial. The cubs must demonstrate proper aggression and hunting ability. If they fail the standards, the sovereignty has the right to euthanize them as unfit. Taemin stood very still. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet and dangerous. They want to kill them for being traumatized. They want to maintain the strength of their species, Thelvan corrected carefully. Raxians are endangered. They believe that weak genetics threaten their survival. It is harsh, but it is their law. We have no jurisdiction to interfere. Hana found Taemin in the observation room hours later, watching the cubs play in their enclosure. They were practicing hunting behaviors on training dummies, working together with precision that would make any predator proud. You cannot go in there before the trial, she said gently. It will only make you feel worse. They are not weak, Taemin said. Look at them. They are coordinated, intelligent, and strong. Just because they needed help after trauma does not make them defective. I know. But Krek Thor is not going to see it that way. To him, cubs that could not survive alone are failures. Every species has cubs that need help. Human babies cannot even lift their own heads for months. Wolf pups are blind and helpless. That is what childhood is for. To learn and grow with protection. Why do Raxians think their cubs should be different? Hana sat beside him. Because they are apex predators living on harsh worlds. Their culture developed around immediate strength. It is not fair, but it is reality. Krek Thor arrived the next day with a military escort. He was even more imposing in person, his presence filling any room he entered. He regarded Taemin with open contempt. You are the human who has been coddling our young. It was not a question. Taemin met his gaze steadily, refusing to be intimidated. I have been caring for 3 orphaned cubs who needed help. Raxion cubs do not need coddling. They need strength. They needed food. Krek Thor made a dismissive sound. You have made them weak, dependent on alien intervention. This is unacceptable. Tomorrow, they will face the traditional trial. They will hunt, live prey, and demonstrate combat skills. You will not be present. You will not interfere. If they fail, they will be terminated. Taemin felt cold rage building in his chest, but he kept his voice level. They are juveniles. They are barely old enough to. They are old enough to prove their worth or die. That is Raxion law. The commander left, his escort following. Thelvan placed a hand on Taemin's shoulder. I am sorry. I tried to negotiate different terms, but the sovereignty was adamant. That night, Taemin did something he knew would get him in trouble. He entered the cubs' enclosure against direct orders and spent the night with them. He did not train them for the trial. He just stayed close, providing comfort. The cubs sensed his distress. They pressed against him, making soft, worried sounds. Day 1, the smallest, climbed partially into his lap, despite now being large enough to knock him over easily. "I am sorry," Taemin whispered. "I am so sorry. I cannot protect you tomorrow. You have to protect yourselves." A knock on the enclosure door made him look up. Hyun Woo, the station's human psychologist, stood outside. Taemin had not realized there were other humans on staff. "May I come in?" Taemin nodded. Hyun Woo entered carefully, and the cubs watched him but did not react aggressively. They had learned that humans meant safety. "I wanted to warn you," Hyun Woo said quietly. "You have formed a deep attachment to these cubs. When they are taken, the emotional impact will be severe. This is why standard protocols discourage emotional bonds with subjects." "I know. Then why did you do it?" Taemin looked at the cubs surrounding him, these incredible young predators who had learned to trust again despite trauma. "Because attachment is not a weakness. It is why humans succeed where other species fail. We connect emotionally because it makes us better caregivers, better teachers, better partners. These cubs know they are valued. That does not make them weak, it makes them strong, but it makes you vulnerable." "Yes," Taemin admitted. "It does. But that is the price of caring. And I would rather be vulnerable than cold." Hyunwoo smiled sadly. "I hope you are right. For their sake and yours." The trial began the next morning in a large combat arena. Krekthor and a panel of 3 Raxion judges sat in observation boxes. The station crew watched from behind protective barriers. Taemin was forced to stay in a separate room with guards posted to ensure he did not interfere. The cubs were released into the arena confused and afraid. They looked for Taemin, but he was not there. They made distress calls, but no one answered. Then the prey was released. Large herbivores from a Raxion world, creatures with natural weapons and defensive behaviors. They were dangerous even to trained hunters. The cubs recognized the threat immediately. They formed a defensive cluster, watching the herbivores circle them. This was not play. This was survival. One of the herbivores charged the smallest cub, Day 1. He froze for just a moment. Fear overwhelming instinct. The herbivore's horn caught his shoulder, and blood splattered the arena floor. Krekthor stood, ready to declare failure. But then something happened that shocked every Raxion watching. The other 2 cubs did not abandon their injured sibling. Instead, they immediately formed a protective formation around Day 1, one on each side. They moved in perfect synchronization, coordinating attacks and defense in a way that adult Raxions typically did not learn until years of maturity. One cub feinted left while the other struck right. They used teamwork, communication, and strategy to bring down the herbivore. When it fell, they did not continue attacking mindlessly. They protected their wounded pack member and assessed the arena for additional threats. The judges were stunned into silence. This level of coordination was unprecedented in cubs this young. Raxion culture emphasized individual strength, but these cubs were demonstrating something potentially more powerful. Collective strength. The trial continued with 2 more prey releases. Each time, the cubs worked as a flawless unit. They covered each other's weaknesses, maximized their individual strengths, and never abandoned their injured member. Day 1, despite his wound, fought when needed, and fell back when covered. When the trial ended, all 3 cubs stood together, bloodied but alive, successful but exhausted. They did not roar in triumph. They pressed close to each other, seeking comfort from their pack. Krekthor stood slowly, his expression unreadable. They have passed the combat trial. They are fit to return to Raxion society. Relief flooded through the watching crowd, but Krekthor was not finished. However, there is an unprecedented complication. These cubs have bonded with the human in a way I have never seen before. They look for him. They used pack tactics he taught them. If we separate them abruptly, they may suffer psychological damage that could affect their development. He turned to face where he knew Taemin was watching through monitors. The sovereignty has authorized an unusual solution. The human will accompany the cubs to our homeworld. for a transitional period. One season. He will help them integrate into a Raxion pack, then return to his own kind. Thelvan immediately protested. That is incredibly dangerous. The Raxion homeworld is filled with adult apex predators. Taemin is human. He is fragile compared to... He has survived 3 cubs. Krekthor interrupted. If he is skilled enough for that, he is skilled enough for our world. The cubs need this transition. The sovereignty has decided. In the observation room, Taemin did not hesitate. I accept. The Raxion homeworld was called Kresh. And it was beautiful, in a terrifying way. Forests of razor-sharp crystal trees, mountains that glowed with internal heat, and predators around every corner. Taemin stepped off the transport and immediately understood why Raxions valued strength. This world demanded it. Krekthor met them at the landing site with a small group of Raxion warriors. They stared at Taemin with undisguised curiosity. A human. Here, on Kresh. It was unprecedented. The cubs rushed to Taemin the moment they were released, pressing against him and making happy sounds. They had been separated during the journey, and the reunion was emotional. Taemin ran his hands over each of them, checking for injuries or stress. They missed you, Krekthor observed. This bond you formed. It is stronger than I expected. Bonds usually are, Taemin replied. That is what makes them matter. The first week on Kresh was an adjustment for everyone. Taemin lived in a shelter near the cubs' designated territory. Adult Raxions came to observe him constantly, fascinated by this small alien who walked among them without fear. He continued the cubs' training, but now he incorporated elements of Raxion culture. He taught them the hunting calls, the territorial displays, the social hierarchies they would need to navigate, but he also maintained the cooperation and strategy that had made them successful in the trial. Word spread quickly through Raxion society. Other packs began bringing their cubs to observe. Young Raxions watched Taemin teach, and they saw something their culture had forgotten: coordination, planning, emotional bonds, used as strength rather than viewed as weakness. A young Raxion named Velkoth approached Taemin during the second week. She was a junior pack leader, barely into adulthood. The way you teach? It is different from traditional methods. How so? You reward them for working together. You encourage them to protect each other. Raxion training typically focuses on individual dominance. Cubs are taught that strength alone determines survival. Taemin nodded. And how many cubs survive that training? Velkoth looked away. Perhaps 60% reach adulthood. On Earth, we learned that pack cooperation increases survival rates dramatically. Wolves that work together take down prey much larger than themselves. Lions that coordinate hunts are more successful. Your cubs are incredibly strong individually. But imagine that strength multiplied by cooperation. That is what we saw in the trial. Your 3 cubs fighting as one. Exactly. They are not weaker for caring about each other. Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened. Young Raxions began adopting elements of Taemin's teaching style. They formed tighter pack bonds, practiced coordinated hunting, and showed empathy toward injured pack members instead of abandoning them. Krekthor watched this change with mixed feelings. Part of him saw it as abandoning tradition. But another part, the part that had seen 3 juveniles succeed through teamwork, recognized potential. You are changing our culture, he told Taemin during a morning hunt observation. I am just showing an alternative, Taemin replied. Your way works for Kresh's harshest environments. But is survival the only goal? Or can your species also thrive? Krekthor did not answer immediately. He watched the cubs, Taemin's 3, as they practiced hunting with a group of young Raxions. They were teaching the others their coordinated tactics. The integration was happening naturally. You do not fear us, Krekthor said finally. Why? Taemin considered the question. I respect you. I recognize that any adult Raxion could kill me without effort. But fear and respect are different things. I have worked with apex predators my entire life. Tigers, crocodiles, bears. I learned that they do not want to kill me. They want to live their lives. If I respect their space, understand their behavior, and treat them with dignity, we can coexist. Most species run from us. Most species did not spend thousands of years turning wolves into dogs. Humans have a strange relationship with predators. We see potential partners instead of just threats. Krekthor made a sound that might have been laughter. Your species is bizarre. We get that a lot. The months passed quickly. Taemin taught, the cubs grew, and Raxion society slowly shifted. It was not a revolution, just an evolution. Young Raxians learned that emotional bonds could coexist with strength, that caring for pack members did not mean weakness. The cubs integrated successfully into a mixed-age pack led by Velkoth. She had specifically requested them, interested in their unique training. Day 1, the smallest, became a strategist, the one who planned attacks and coordinated movements. The other two became enforcers, using their strength to execute his plans. As Taemin's contracted season approached its end, he prepared to leave. The hardest part was saying goodbye to the cubs. They were juveniles now, nearly full-grown, but they still remembered him as Pack. The night before his departure, they came to his shelter. All three of them, massive and powerful, capable of incredible violence. They pressed close to him one last time, making soft sounds that tore at his heart. "You are going to be amazing," he told them. "You are going to live long lives. You are going to have cubs of your own someday. And maybe, just maybe, you will teach them that strength and compassion can coexist." Day 1 pressed his forehead against Taemin's chest, a gesture of affection. The human wrapped his arms around the massive head, holding on for a long moment. "I will miss you too," Taemin whispered. Krekthor personally escorted Taemin to the transport. The warrior, who had once viewed him with contempt, now regarded him with something approaching respect. "You have done something I thought impossible," Krekthor said. "You have shown my species that there is strength in bonds, that caring for each other does not make us weak. Our survival rates for cubs have already improved in the packs that adopted your methods." "I did not invent pack bonding," Taemin said. "I just reminded you it was valuable. Nevertheless, the Raxian sovereignty wishes to formally thank you. You will always be welcome on Kresh. And if you ever need aid, call on us. You have friends among the apex predators." The transport lifted off, and Taemin watched Kresh shrink below him. He could see the cubs in the clearing, watching the sky. Velkoth stood with them, already guiding them toward their next training session. Back on Earth, Taemin became a celebrity of sorts. News of his success spread through the galaxy. The Galactic Conservation Authority established a new division focused on emotional approaches to animal rehabilitation. They recruited specialists from dozens species, but humans remained the primary consultants. Hana and Yuna led the program, training others in the techniques Taemin had demonstrated. "It is not magic," Yuna explained in countless lectures. "It is observation, patience, and empathy. Any species can learn these skills, but humans have been practicing them for thousands of years." 5 years after leaving Kresh, Taemin received an invitation to return for an anniversary celebration. He accepted immediately. When he arrived, he barely recognized the cubs. They were massive adults now, each leading their own sub-packs within Velkoth's larger family group. But they recognized him instantly. Day 1 approached first, and for a moment, Taemin wondered if the now enormous predator would even remember him as friend rather than prey. Then Day 1 performed the forehead greeting, gentle despite his size, and Taemin laughed with relief and joy. "Look at you," he said, running his hands over the scarred armor plating. "You are magnificent." The celebration was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Raxions and humans gathering together, sharing stories and techniques. Young Raxion cubs trained under a mixed curriculum that balanced traditional strength training with cooperative tactics. Adult Raxions spoke openly about the value of pack bonds. Krekthor, now an elder advisor, gave a speech that was recorded and shared across known space. 5 years ago, we brought a human to handle 3 impossible cubs. We expected him to fail. Instead, he taught us that we had forgotten something important. Strength alone is survival. But strength, combined with bonds, cooperation, and compassion, that is thriving. The human showed us the difference. Taemin stood with the cubs, now adults, and watched young Raxions play with their pack members. They were still fierce, still predators, still dangerous, but they were also connected, coordinated, caring for each other. A young reporter, a Karathi named Delson, asked Taemin the question everyone wanted answered. How did you know it would work? How did you know that caring for apex predators would not just get you killed? Taemin smiled. I did not know for certain. But humans learned something important thousands of years ago when we first befriended wolves. The most dangerous predators can be reached, not through domination or fear, but through respect and patience. We see a creature that could kill us, and yes, we recognize the danger, but we also see a thinking being, a potential friend, a life worth protecting. Is that not terrifying? Sometimes, but it is also beautiful. Fear keeps you alive. Connection makes life worth living. Humans choose to embrace both. The interview went viral across the galaxy. Other species began re-evaluating their approaches to dangerous fauna. Rehabilitation centers adopted emotional intelligence training. Conservation efforts incorporated bonding techniques alongside traditional methods. The cubs, now fully mature Raxions with their own packs, never forgot their human. When Taemin visited, which he did once a year, they always greeted him with the same gentle affection. Their own cubs learned that this small, soft creature was special, protected, family. And across the galaxy, when faced with impossible creatures that no one else could handle, the call went out. Get me a human, because humans had learned what many species had forgotten. The apex predators stayed away in fear, but humans walked in with compassion. And that made all the difference.